You are now listening to the Hunter's Advantage podcast. We preserve the history and sport of hunting through curious conversation and action-packed hunts, as well as offering you tips and strategy for more successful hunts. The Hunter's Advantage podcast is powered by Out on a Limb Manufacturing. Out on a Limb is a family-owned company based right here in Oklahoma that makes tree stands, saddle platforms, climbing sticks, and so much more.
Christian, I have a quick question.
What's that?
What bites down harder, a hippo or an alligator?
No idea.
It's a trick question. The Ridge Runner 2.0 bites harder than both of them. But all jokes aside, we use these products all across the land on public or private. These help us get into any tree we want and hunt where the deer actually are.
Most men go to the grocery store for their meat, but these products help you go to God's grocery store. I have used the Out on a Limb Ridge Runner 2.0 and the Shakar sticks for the last few years hunting public land bucks, and I've actually shot several bucks out of this setup. If you want to support the podcast and get some Out on a Limb equipment, make sure to go to outonalimbmfg.com and use code HNTA10 for 10% off at checkout. Once again, if you want to support the podcast, go to outonalimbmfg.com and use code HNTA10 at checkout for 10% off. Now let's get back to the podcast. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hunter's Advantage podcast. I'm joined by Jake and Baker Mayfield 2.0 down here in the middle of the screen. What is up with that mustache, right? Any reason that you're rocking that bad boy?
Change it up, man. It's deer season's coming, so I got to let them know there's a new sheriff in town.
Dude, what I love is you kept the soul patch. That's probably the best part.
Yeah.
That thing is sick. If you guys aren't watching the video version of the podcast, you're doing yourself a disservice because there's a top 5 mustache I've ever seen on the screen right here. No, but in today's episode, we're going to talk about a variety of things, kind of a summer catch-up episode. We're going to talk about some bow fishing that we did last weekend, some summer bucks that we got at the lease that Carol and I are sharing, and then we're going to briefly talk about a ban or a Texas bill that came across on banning access of public lands via waterway. So that's what we're going to do on this podcast. But anyways, before we get started, how's everybody doing? Jake's not surviving in the heat. Peyton, are you surviving your COVID, your battle you've been having for the last 2 weeks?
I don't know. We'll find out. I went to the doctor earlier and they sent me somewhere else, but I'm not going because I ain't got no money. Hunting season's coming up. I got to put it somewhere.
$50 is $50.
Yeah.
I don't blame you. So let's talk about bow fishing from last weekend. I have not spent a lot of time bow fishing in my life, but the bow fishing that I have done prior to this last weekend was with Carol on probably a 16, 17 foot boat with did we use KC lights and a generator to run that thing?
Yeah, back in the day, yeah, it was a bass tracker. It was like a 03 bass tracker. It was not a bow fishing boat, but we went out to the shop and my dad had some lights out there and we had a generator Honda 3000. I was like, man, we got everything we need. Let's go give it a shot.
It worked though too. Actually, really worked. Good.
Yeah, like we never had those nights where we would go out and harvest like 50 or 60, harvest 50 or 60 fish. But we did have, a few, I think where we got close to 20 a few nights.
Well, I actually had a girlfriend that broke up with me over bow fishing. Do you remember that in the boat?
I was there.
No,
it starts with A.
No. No, I kept shooting fish, and this is in the days of Snapchat, so you just keep sending pictures of all the fish you guys are shooting. And she said, what are you doing with those? I was like, you're looking at it. Like they're going to lay in the back of the boat, and we're going to throw them up on the bank like you do with bow fishing fish. Like nobody eats carp. And then she was like, I think that's cruel. And then I started thinking about it. I'm like, it is kind of cruel, but they're dead, and we're still going to fish. We got a lot of gas invested in this. So yeah.
Does it rhyme with Bastion?
All right. So anyways, you said that no one likes carp, but down at the arts and crafts show, we used to I think it's called War Eagle. I don't know in Arkansas where it's at, but I used to catch carp, snag them and take them to a set of I don't know if they're Japanese, Chinese, but they actually offered me shish kebabs for carp. So they would give me 5 shish kebabs. Now I don't know what I was eating, but they were damn good.
You ate carp shish kebabs?
No, not carp. It was chicken, Steak.
Are you sure?
I don't know what it was, but it was really good.
You used to take them carp. You used to take them carp to
I
eat.
used to snag the carp, and they would trade me. They would be like 5 shish kebabs for that carp. I'd be like, deal. So I used to
Where
go
is
snag
War
a carp.
Eagle?
It's in Arkansas. I don't know the town. Rogers. I think it's Rogers, close to Rogers, maybe.
So you'd snag the carp where and bring them to them.
So there was a big river that runs through there, or it's a creek or a river. I don't know what it is, but you would just go down there, and they actually had, what do you call those things that spin, take the water over?
Turbines?
Yeah, like a slow one that people could watch. And anyways, these carp would get all up in there. So I just put like a few out, or like a 1 ounce sinker on there with the treble hook, cast it over their backs, jerk, would catch one like every single cast, would take it up there, and they'd be like, all right. And they would hand me like 5 shish kebabs for a carp. Eventually they were like, no more.
Because you bankrupted them of shish kebabs.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, probably. But anyways, that's my cool story. Dave, you look like you enjoyed it.
Okay, let's talk about this last weekend. I'm trying to think the last time we went bow fishing, Carol. What did we use for bows? Did we have old bows, or did your dad have a bunch of old bows? Or
yeah, we had a bunch of like old like compound, probably like they were probably set on like 30 pounds, maybe. I don't know. They like didn't have a sight. Like we were men, like we didn't use sights or anything like that. We went to Bass Pro, and they had an attachment where your stabilizer would go.
Mm-hmm.
You screwed it in, and it was just like a bucket almost. So you would shoot, and you would grab your line and wrap it around that bucket. Like we didn't even.
It wasn't even a reel.
No, it wasn't even a reel. It was just like an open bucket that you just like wrapped your line around. It worked, dude. It worked. I mean, we were terrible shots. It's the only reason we didn't get more. But like we never had a lot of malfunctions. Other than the arrows were expensive, but.
Oh, I went and bought some last weekend. They were like $20 a piece, and that was for the cheap ones.
Yeah. Yep.
The
The
really
arrows
cheap
were pretty
ones.
expensive.
Thankfully, that ballista crossbow that they sent me a bow fishing reel, and it was supposed to go on the crossbow, but they never sent the arrows with them, which I'm still trying to get. And so we just like took that ballista crossbow reel this last weekend and like screwed it into the stabilizer port on one of the recurves, and it worked really, really well. I actually took the crossbow and let Jake shoot it. What did you think about that thing?
Sucker was accurate, because after shooting the recurve at about 40 fish and hitting none of them, and then picking up the recurve and saying, hey, I'm going to hit that log across the creek on the opposite bank, and it actually hitting, it made me want to use a crossbow now, not just for fish.
That little one. So we did go pick up a deer, and we took it out to Jared, and right before we left, Jake was like, let's show it to Jared. And because most people have like never seen a pistol crossbow before. I had never seen it when they sent it to us. And we took it in there to Jared, and we're like, what do you think about this? He's like, what? Let me see that. What the hell's that? And we took him out and let him shoot his bag with it. The thing shoots like 330 feet per second, and he shot into the bag and dang near lost one of the bolts. But the bolts for that little thing are probably only 12 inches long. I wish we could have used that thing bow fishing, because it literally has a red dot. But the only issue, I think you'd penetrate through fish. Because when I was talking to Colin Seabolt, he was telling me you only want to shoot like 20 pounds, 25 pounds. Like he doesn't even pull his recurve back all the way when he shoots. So I feel like do you feel like a crossbow would shoot through the fish? Like the arrow all the way through?
You're talking, yeah, probably. Yeah.
I thought so too. So that's my only concern with that little crossbow, is using it that way. But we did do it.
If you get them like across the creek, kind of like we were shooting at, I think that would, like, you almost kind of need that force to punch through one. I mean, not punch through, but just shish kebab one.
Yeah, I think there was many times that we shot last week with the recurve and hit fish, and there just was not enough velocity to go through them. Like you could literally see them jump out of the water. I think it just hits them and comes back. Well, I've never shot a fish that far.
If you look at that arrow, if you got it by you real quick, like the tip wasn't pointing anymore. It was like damn near flat after we got done using it.
Yeah, that happens. That used to happen to us, and we were just like, grind it, get it on some
Oh,
rocks, and just
yeah.
start like sharpen it and stuff because we were like, we can't afford the tips. So
Can't afford a new arrow.
yeah, no kidding.
No, so we went out with the recurve, probably shot 30 times before we even touched a fish. But we were headed to the second spot, and it seems like in the creek, every time you walk up by a tree, there's like a gar like under the tree in the shade. And there was one that was probably 3 foot long under the tree. I don't know how many I missed at probably 6 feet, but I finally got one like 10 foot away. And those banks in that creek are like probably 10 or 12 foot high. Blasted that sucker. And I could tell immediately that the line on that reel was pretty weak because it starts screaming just across the creek. I'm reeling it in. All you hear is like the drag's going as I'm reeling it in. And the first one that we shot was probably like I don't know anything about gar weight. I couldn't tell you if it weighed 3 pounds or 10 pounds, but we ended up shooting that one that was like 3.5 foot. It was really fun. I like shooting them. It's fun to fight them on the bow fishing reel. It's not like, Carol, what we used to use when you have to wrap it around.
Yeah, you're like, pull it, man. Come on.
You hand the other guy the bow so you can start grabbing the line.
Yeah.
Dude, I got a nasty gash in my finger because I grabbed the line as the gar was like, I tried to pull up and it was just sliced you so bad. So bad. If we could shoot at all, we probably would have had 50.
Well, fish. So there was that, and then also the creek was like a milk chocolate color.
Disgusting.
So yeah, I don't know if we've been getting a lot of rain up north or what the deal may be, but it's turning, and it wasn't the clearest I've ever seen it. So it was pretty difficult to see.
It sounds like you guys got to shoot a lot though. That's a lot of shots.
I bet I got to shoot 50. I was 1 for 50. Not bad.
Well, so we had an idea of bringing a little spinnerbait or something on a bass rod and throwing it up, because you know how gar are like pretty curious and stuff. So when you see them, it's basically like spot and stalking. You see them, and
yeah, they'll chase it all the way up to the bank.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking, but we couldn't remember to bring a pole either day, so we were just kind of winging it.
And we still saw quite a few. I mean, a lot of the shots were like long range shots, like legitimately like 15 to 20 yards, and your arrow's in the air for like 3 seconds before it hits, and you see the fish, like you're hitting the fish. But when they're like swimming off, you're like, it probably felt like you tapped them with your hand. Like it was not enough momentum to go through them or anything. But Jake and I each ended up getting one. What did you think about the one you shot, Jake?
Purely luck. That's what I mean.
Statistically speaking,
yeah,
every shot was luck that we got one.
I thought it was kind of funny because like this was like my first like really good go at using a recurve like consistently. Like me and you shot it whenever we went and scouted the piece of public, but that was just kind of like a screwing around ordeal. But this time you're like, you have a goal in mind and you're like, okay, I want to hit this. And so just kind of seeing how low you actually had to aim within the water to actually hit the fish was pretty eye-opening though.
Yeah, I was gonna say when we used to go, it was like you had to aim like way underneath the fish because you're like your arrow flight is a lot different when it hits that water than you think.
I feel like it ricochets, is it not?
I have no idea. I was never a good shot. I couldn't tell you. I just always.
We need Colin Seabolt on to talk about
no joke.
Talk about bow fishing.
I did get a pass through though.
Oh, you got it. You got a full pass through though.
Yeah.
So
which my gar was only like maybe 10 inches.
It went through the fish and the line was like wrapped around its tail. So Jake was like, I hit it in the tail. And I was like, no, your arrow got a full pass through and the line is wrapped around the tail.
Like, did you actually eat that, Jake? Did you guys actually clean that and eat that gar?
I cooked it like 2 nights ago.
How was it fried?
So it was a little chewy, and which I think that's what you meant by when you said it was rubbery. But I don't know. I use that like on every single piece of fish that I deep fry. I use that Louisiana seasoning or whatever, and it makes everything taste good. So
it was edible. Like if you were on the show alone and you had some Louisiana seasoning, you'd 100%. Eat it again.
Yeah.
Would you eat it again voluntarily?
I mean, I don't think this is like that's my favorite type of fish by no means, but I mean, I think it was pretty cool to eat, knowing that it was swimming around 2 days prior.
Yeah. I cooked it, just grilled it, which I'm not I don't even really like grilled fish anyways, but we didn't have any oil to fry it. So I made a taco, avocado, spicy mayo, cheese, lemon, like all that stuff on it. And I still bit into it and I was like, not the best. It was okay. I would give it like a 4 out of 10, but
Well, I didn't have like any. Excuse me. I didn't have like any big chunks. I cut them up into pretty thin strips, and that way there's a good breading to meat ratio.
mostly 70%
Yeah.
breading.
Yeah.
That's the only way to eat fish. Well, because we cooked some flathead catfish the other couple weekends ago.
Flathead
And-
is good.
No, we had the belly though too.
Yeah,
belly meat.
meats. Yeah.
Yeah, so we fried it and it was like the best fish I've ever had. But then I took the same meat and I grilled it for like tacos like a couple days later, and the same meat was like considerably worse. And so I just don't think fish is meant to be grilled. I think it's meant to be fried.
When we went down to Florida, I'll keep this short, but Jonathan and them, we caught some red snapper, and I don't know what else we caught, but we caught some ocean fish, and Jonathan by far is the best fish cook I ever. Like, I don't know what his secret sauce is, but it's dang good. And man, I don't want to ever even eat freshwater fish ever again after tasting red snapper and the fish that we ate. It was so good, just 10 times better.
How did he
10
cook
times
it?
better. He just fried it up, just how you normally fry it. The meat's just cleaner. It's not dirty, murky water. No like gaminess. Like, you know how like you can get some gaminess taste of fish. It's not like as bad as deer or anything like that, but you can get some gaminess. Like crappie's pretty clean. Crappie and flathead, I think, are pretty clean, and blue cats are pretty clean. But this fish was it was just so good. It was so good.
I've had red snapper. We went deep sea fishing one time. We only caught 2, and we cooked them like only 4 fillets. And I remember we ate them, and I was just like, I wish we had caught 100. It was,
Yeah.
I was so sad. It's really, red snapper is really, really good. Looks like a red goldfish.
I had that in Florida like 2 years ago. It was red snapper, and it was on like a bed of collard greens, and then it had mashed potatoes under the collard greens, and then it had like little like candied pecans sprinkled on top. And dear God, now granted that could have been chicken nuggets, on top of the collard greens, and it still would have tasted good. So
yeah, if that fish is good. If I was on alone and I had to eat gar, I'd eat it again. But I also didn't have it deep fried, so I'll probably have to try it like that before I write it off. Was there anything else to happen with the bow fishing? I'm trying to think. We only shot 2 fish.
Yeah, something very important happened.
Oh, I remember. Well, in the spirit of getting really good footage, I always take the drone up. I try to use the drone in like all the videos because, like Carol says, drones just make videos awesome. They make an okay video awesome. And I was flying it down the creek, and I got some awesome shots above the creek. And I was like, that's cool. We need to get a shot like water level and just like push up under all the trees and stuff. And I did that. And I was probably 90% of the way out of the creek, like bringing the drone back up to bring it out. And my screen it disconnects. And when, I don't know how many people that are listening that have DJI, like the app, when it disconnects, it usually like disconnects, and then it's like weak signal, and it comes right back. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. It never did that. It disconnected. And then we tried to drive around the creek and go back to reconnect to it. And it literally just went back to the screen on the app where it says connect to a drone. And so that one was completely disconnected. And it has the feature where it's supposed to return to home, where you were parked or where you took off from. We drove back there. It was never there. What I think happened was like I lost signal to it. It disconnected. It pissed me off because it's only like 400 yards away. And that thing can go like several miles. And I assume it probably tried to return to home and hit a tree and fell in the creek. Never found it in the creek though. Like a $400 drone right into the creek. Good donation to the water gods, I guess. But I mean, that was it. Never found it. I was more mad about losing the footage than I was the drone. Like I wish it would have spit the SD card out on the bank or something, because it was some sweet footage, but lost the drone.
Have you ever emailed them or anything?
Yeah, I called them. I spent 45 minutes on customer care the other day, just waiting. They're a Chinese company. I did not know this. I didn't know this. Yeah, Carol, the drone you sent me today has Chinese written on the box. I don't know if you noticed that. I mean, they make a good product.
You end up getting it though, right?
Yeah, I got it today.
Okay.
So yeah, lost the drone in the creek. That drone, I had it for like, I think almost 3 years. So it had got some cool shots, and it had been into Canada, Nebraska. It's been all over with us, but it would have been nice to have it, still have it, but it's gone, never to be returned. It's probably sitting in the pasture, just returned to home. We just never saw it.
No, it was not.
You don't think so?
No, we drove right up to the tire tracks and we waited, and we didn't hear anything flying in the air or anything like that. And it wasn't like it was.
What had happened is it was trying to return to home, so it tried probably going straight up, like to get out of there, go straight up and hit a tree.
Well, what I kind of think now, I'm no drone expert, obviously, but I think it just lagged before you ever lost connection, and I
just ran into something.
You ran into something and plopped in the water.
Yeah, because sometimes in that app, you'll be like, "Oh, I'm right here," and then it lags for a second, and you're 20 yards ahead, and you're like, "Oh," you know, like, and it's sketchy. But yeah, either ran it into the creek bank and it fell in the water, or it tried to return it home and it fell in the water. It stopped at the creek is only like 10 yards wide, so it stopped at like the worst time it possibly could have, and just decided to lose signal and disconnect. So, well,
literally 15 seconds. Yeah, literally 15 seconds earlier, and you would have been like right where we were walking up and down bow fishing, and like short grass too. So it was just unfortunate.
Yeah, she had to go. I guess it was her time. I remember walking back to the truck, and I was like, "Why, God? What was the purpose of that?" But it is.
You got poison ivy out of it, so
yeah, poison ivy. Got to eat some rubbery fish. So bow fishing was fun. If it wasn't 110 degrees, I'd be very more apt to spend more time out there. But after about 9 a.m., it's like, okay, why is my pants filled with water? So this is weird.
That did make me want to get a recurve though. Like I was scrolling through Amazon and eBay and Facebook Marketplace, like really looking. I sent you a couple, but the ones I did send you didn't have that little the little brass fittings where you could like screw in like a bow fishing reel, stuff like that. So I'm still on the lookout.
I really want to get a recurve just for if I ever tag out on bucks. That way I can just be like, all right, Dill,
I'm gonna wound all of you.
Yeah,
wound
next time,
dude. The recurve, I've had people that shoot recurves, like the Black Widows and stuff. They're really nice $1,500 recurves. I'm like, where do you aim? They're like, oh, I aim at the kneecaps in the front. And I'm like, what do you mean the kneecaps? Like 1.5 feet below the deer? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, why? He goes, oh, you think they duck a compound? Wait till you shoot a recurve. I'm like, oh, awesome. That's something to look forward to. Which it makes sense.
While you two are slinging little homemade sticks at deer, I'll just take that little handheld crossbow and
the pistol crossbow.
Do them dirty.
You'll hit them. I don't know if you'll blow through them or not, but you'll hit them. They probably wouldn't even hear that little pistol crossbow.
Just throw like a 400 grain broadhead on it and see what happens.
Dude, just nose dives at 5 yards. So Carol, we talked about this last week a little bit. We did talk about summer bucks on the lease, but since you're here and you offer a unique perspective with that mustache and all the wisdom that comes with it, how you feeling about the lease this year? We wrote out a few of the bucks that we have. We had that big wide 10 that we're watching, the one that Jake really likes. We had that drop tine 8 that's still kind of late growing, and then one that we called Mr. Next Year, the one that's got the really a bunch of tines, but might be a 4.5-year-old buck. What's your just general thoughts about the lease this year?
I'm pretty excited. I know last year, basing off last year, is when we had bucks start showing up. You know, it's super weird because bucks are like nowhere to be found, and then one day it's like, oh hey, we have 6 shooters in one photo, and there hasn't been anything the last few weeks. But the main thing about our lease is I get super excited is because there is nobody within miles of where we hunt. You know, no one lives around there. There's just a deer. Most of those deer probably don't even know what a human are. or a human is.
They know after I shoot one and get out of the tree.
They
I'm
probably
like,
legitimately don't know what we are or have never seen one of us. So they, knock on wood, last year, and from what I can tell, the year before, they pattern really, really well there. So I'm super excited for that. But yeah, we have some really good ones. Really
So,
good ones.
what's the story on Mr. Next Year?
what's the story, bro?
It sounds like the people that we lease from. I'm not going to give any names or anything, but I think we all decided that he's worth looking into closer to season, but there's probably like a 90-95% chance that we wait on him. But
Why is that? Because just
4.5.
Carol's like, hell, I don't know. Why are we doing that?
It kills me to say because when you see 100 and this deer, like, we don't know. We know that he's over 145 inches. We know that. He could be 160 inches, but it's just tough because normally when you say, yeah, we have a 4.5-year-old deer and he might be 160 inches, you're just like, okay, see you October 1st. But this one's different to where he's really not at that size that we're never going to kill a bigger deer than him. So it's worth waiting. He might be 165. He might even be 175 next year. We don't know, but he's not at that size where it's like, oh my God, we can't wait.
Well, so explain though why you guys have other deer on that property that would probably go 140 that you would probably shoot. So what's the difference between that deer and just the average 140 on that place?
Because our other average 140s could be 5.5 to 6.5-year-old deer. He's only 4.5. They're not. Those other deer, it's a gamble. If we wait, it's a gamble if they get bigger. This deer is going to get bigger next year.
That's true. It's tough because how do you ask somebody to pass the biggest deer they've ever shot, like a low 150s type deer? It's mind over matter at that point. It's really easy in the summer to be like, oh, I'll pass that buck, for sure. He comes by me. But
all I'm saying is those trail cam pics y'all sent me, they don't do justice to that video. That video of him walking in takes it to a whole nother level. So imagine if you're 15 foot up in a stand and he's at the corn feeder, what he's going to look like.
Dude, I'm just closing my eyes. I'm just shutting my eyes and just laying down. Because here's the thing. I'm not going to scare him off either. But yeah, we had photos and, Christian and I were like, yeah, he's really good. He's really good.
Yeah, he's like 140s probably. That's what we thought.
And then that video came in and I remember I was driving to Tulsa and I was like, oh, he's a giant. He's not just good. He's a giant. So now Velvet might come off and we might be like, okay, he's not as big as we thought, but still he's still a big deer. Anywhere else is anyone shooting him.
Well, I think one of the reasons that you would pass a deer like that, and one of the easy ways, well, not easy, one of the ways that I can rationalize it in my head is not every deer has the ability to throw non-typical points. And so when you see a deer that's 3 years old, like as a 3-year-old, he had a kicker coming off his base and he had that dagger point off his main beam next to his 2, and it was probably 6 inches long. Well, this next year, he has a kicker coming off the front and both of those dagger points might be 9 inches long, and he has them on both sides now. My thought is like anytime you see a deer that goes like a non-typical that goes 230, 240, 250, it's always because they throw a ton of non-typical points. I'm not saying this deer will ever be a 200-inch deer, but a buck that is already showing you at a young age, I can throw trash. Who knows what a deer like that could do? He could come off with triple flyers off each side next year, or a drop tine or kickers. And it's just like Peyton said, he's at that size now where if you kill him, you're never going to know. But if he's the same, let's say the next year he comes out and he's 5 and he has the same exact rack, then he would absolutely get blasted. But I just feel like a deer like that could be that 170-inch deer that you want to hunt.
Yeah, and that's my main point of like, well, that's what I'm talking myself down because, yeah, I want to shoot him. I want to.
I do too.
Everybody wants to, but he's also like, okay, he's big. but he's not so big that we're never, if we shoot him this year, we're still probably going to upgrade in our life where it's like, okay, he's not the one. He's not the one when he can be, so he's not big enough that we're going to regret if anything happens, if the neighbors get him or anything happens. Yeah, it's going to suck, but it's not like, oh man, he was the one, we're never going to kill a deer bigger than that.
So what's y'all's game plan going into it then? If he's not on the docket, who's in y'all's crosshairs?
What's your next favorite, Carol? I hate like listing them out like they're just like a piece of chocolate that you go in the store and pick off.
Why? That's the fun part of it.
But it is like that.
So here was, when we first started hunting, I told you guys, look, I want a crazy buck with just crap going everywhere. And then I want a typical nice looking buck. And I have them both. So now I'm like, well, now what? What do I do now? But I think when I look up at my deer, I just think I want the nice, wide, big framed. Might not score as much as the one that's a little narrower, that he might score a little more, that's got more points. But man, I would take a nice 8 or a wide 10 point over something, like the buck that I shot last year. He's going to score more than, the one that I shot with a rifle a few years ago. He's going to score more, but the frame on the one that I shot is just with the rifle is just so much bigger, and it's just eye candy. So I want the widest and tallest is what I want. But that 8 point, the paddles is, if he walks by though, he's in some trouble because I'm not going to pass that deer up.
So when you say the 8, are you talking about the 10 with short G-force?
So
no,
Carol's talking about the buck with the drop tine.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I understand.
Jake has a Hardy for the like probably 19, 20 inch wide. Remember that big framed sucker, that big old 8.
We've only got one picture of him though.
2. I got one from the side the other day, and he's a 10.
It doesn't matter.
His 4s are like 2 inches long or an inch.
Yeah,
long.
that's a
no
big,
type of pictures.
Might be close to. I don't remember, but I think he's at least 145 inch deer, isn't he?
I put him at 137. I think.
I don't remember
big deer.
The pictures, but maybe I'm not thinking of the same deer. But no, I'm not. I know which deer you're talking about now, Christian.
He's big and wide. So anyone who's listened to any previous podcasts, I'm a man of score over age. Now there is one thing where score gets trumped, and that there's something called presence, like the presence of a deer. So basically, it could be a smaller scoring deer, but if you see it up on the wall or you see it out in your pasture or something, and that thing just looks like a monster, but obviously he wouldn't probably score crazy good, but he just has great main beams, just a great look to him. That's what trumps score to me. Is like, Carol, you were talking about, having a deer that was all funky and then having one that just looked really sexy. Now what you need is just quantity of those deer that just have great presence. And
I'm looking at the photo of the deer now that you're talking about, and I know exactly because he's got a crab claw on his left side. And yeah, he's not as big as he's not 145, but yeah, this deer has mass. He's got tine length. He's just beautiful. Like that is a beautiful big deer. Like anybody, no one would pass that deer up if he walked by.
How old do you think? Well, I guess you only got 2 pictures of him.
I have no idea on that buck.
I don't know.
Old enough.
Shooter. I mean, but he is a 10.
enough.
So would they get mad if technically he's a 10, but he might not be 5.5?
He's not young. Looking at the photo, he's a big bodied deer. At the photo that I'm looking at, my first guess is 5.5. He's got a lot of gray hair. His eyes are sunk in, and he is a big bodied.
Yeah, his eyes are sunk in because he's hot and he's probably thirsty.
Yeah,
105 true. There, dude.
Yeah,
if at the end of my life I have a 30 or 20, 135 inch 8 points that have presence, I'll call that a very successful bow hunting career, because dude, 135 inch 8 can look bigger than 150 inch 10. You see it like a giant 8 point gets screwed on his mass measurements. He gets small measurements on his 4th, and a deer 100 when people throw that number around 130, 140 inch 8, 140 inch 8 looks like 160 inch deer frame wise. They are huge framed.
You want to see a probably a not a low scoring deer, but a lower scoring deer for his presence. You want to see a perfect example of that?
Sure. Yeah, Mr. Diablo.
Man, that deer makes me sick, dude. That gives me hope too. That deer gives me hope.
That there's a big one
Yeah.
out there somewhere for you, waiting for you.
You just don't get those photos, anymore. We're around where we hunt. You just don't get those anymore. But they once were there, so they might make a comeback.
I feel like there's some old monarchs just hiding in the crevices. So I'm not discouraged. I think we have a giant on camera, but we just don't know which camera it's on yet because we haven't checked them.
Look, Harold didn't go with us. He didn't know where our cameras are.
Oh, I'll show you. Don't worry.
That's true.
He's like, wait, we're going to check them this time. I'll come.
Do you really think the quality's gone down?
Oh, dude. Yeah. From as in quality, maybe not quality, but the craziness, like that one that was 25 inches wide, Diablo, what else? I think the craziness, the attributes, I think you just don't see. You're not going to see deer like that anymore. Now we have some good ones, like that one back in Rattlesnake.
Well,
that's our term. No one knows where that's at, right?
Yeah. Shed King shot at that drop tine.
That's true. Drop beams. Drop beams. I don't think
drop beams. Yes.
Yeah.
But now we're starting to talk in code. So
sorry, guys. We have to talk about it like this when we're talking about public land.
Yeah, my brother, the deer that came in and the doe busted him, dude, that deer was
that deer was
huge.
Massive.
Huge. And I was like, oh my God, dude. If it were me, I honestly probably would have jumped out of the tree.
Head first?
No, yeah, probably. I would have been just I would have shot 4 times by then, but I would have absolutely blew it. No doubt I would have blew it, but I would have shot at some point.
Have you watched that video that your brother's group put out called Swing and a Miss? That 8-point that came in and Coop shot and he ducked real bad.
No, it was there's even a better one of the 10-point that the arrow hits the limb. Have you seen that? Dude, that deer was, it is. I think it is. It is huge. That deer is huge. Where it's like, oof. He's seen them.
That hurts.
That's the thing. Yeah. They're there. It's just a once in a blue moon that you see them. I can't ever see them, but I sleep more than anybody too. So I don't know.
Yeah. You also won't sleep in the tent with this. Yeah. So,
well, the thing, it's so crazy. We have, a really premier, I would call it a very good opportunity at the lease, like a very good property that we lease, and you get to see a swath of a bunch of different bucks. And then you go to public land and you're like, why can I find bucks that are 15 inches bigger here? And you're hunting a little bitty area there too. And it's crazy to me what the public can produce versus when you have like premier private, and it won't even throw off one of those giants every once in a while. And granted, we're talking about 150 inch deer, but I feel like they're bigger on public. Not as many of them, but I feel like the ceiling's higher.
Quality over quantity.
Dude, that's what keeps me going back is just the off chance that I wake up from my nap at 9:20 in the morning hanging from the saddle and there's a 190 inch buck walking right under you. That could happen.
Yeah, they're there. It's crazy because your uncle, he shot the 160, what was it, 166? 165 inch. Coop was telling me that one guy a long time ago, I don't know as far as timeline, but he went hunting one time, and he shot 172 inch deer or something there, and it's just crazy. It's like they're there, but gotta find them. Especially after last year when we were done at the lease by October 7th.
What took you so long?
We were done. We were done by October 7th, and then I remember going back and getting photos, and we're like, "Oh, we missed that deer. Oh, what is that? Oh!" And then my gut started like, "Peyton Carroll, why did you shoot at the first deer?" And then I don't know. I'm super happy. Like we killed the oldest 2 deer out there.
Mm-hmm.
But at the
Yeah, we
same
did.
time, it's kind of like, I don't know, man. It's just too hard. Like when you have a deer that's going to score close to 100, my bar is a lot higher now. Not on public, but on the lease.
What the frig is your bar on public? I just watched our video the other day that we put out, and 120-inch buck saw you on public, and you're like,
I might have shot that one. That was that was a pretty good buck. I would have shot that one.
I know, but
I've shot smaller.
What do you mean? At the same time, it's like, would I be happy? Yes, but like I drew the line of I'll take my chances to kill something bigger.
Which you were coming from only having one more tag in your pocket too.
Yeah, that's true. I was like, I'll take my chances. Yes, I'll be extremely happy, but I also was just like, that man, if he was 5 inches bigger, that's probably where I'm like, I don't know. Because he wasn't 120, but he was probably like 115, 117, really close, but I don't think he would have broke 120s.
He was bigger than my first buck down there. That's for dang sure.
So yeah, I had him dead to rights too, dude. He was sitting there lollygagging around at like 20, 25 yards, and I was like, oh, I can bust you right here, right now. An open field too. I would have saw where he went. It would.
You just got to watch the bottom of your cam.
It would have been, well, I hunted out of a saddle, so I no longer have to deal with the climber. But yeah, looking back, I'm like, man, I should have shot, but at the same time, I'm like, I'm glad I didn't, because I don't think anybody probably would end up getting that deer, because I don't know if anybody would have walked as far back there to hunt where I was trying to hunt. And he also came from private land. So I don't think that anybody would have got that deer.
So you weren't hunting the bull?
The bull?
No, not the bull.
No.
Yeah, I was confused when he told me that too. He was more towards the border.
Yeah, I was like 150 yards from the far west side.
There's people we know that listen to this. Moving on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now there's like 8 different west sides.
Good. Nice. Way to throw them off, Carol. There's only one west side, but there's 8 now.
No. You know how that property.
We said west.
That was the northwest.
You know how that property goes.
Yeah, that's true.
No, I don't. Tell me.
Let's not beat the public drum, because I want to save the public talk for when we go check trail cameras.
Looking excited. I'm pretty excited for the lease.
What?
I said I'm pretty excited for the lease, to answer your question.
Good.
Well, you haven't seen the spots though that we have all our cameras hung on.
Oh yeah, dude. I'm sure they're so gold. I'm sure we're gonna go see so many deer, bro. They're gonna be just rolling in the deer.
No,
because that happens every year, dude. I get to on public where I'm like, which one do I want to shoot? Because I'm seeing so many.
So
hell no. Options. This is. I'll tell you my freaking circle of life. Go the first day, no birds, no squirrels, no deer. Go the second day. Nothing. Sleep in third, fourth, fifth, and sixth day. Don't see anything else in this. No, I'm just joking.
Carol has the audacity to sleep in 3 days and go, I ain't seeing nothing.
Carol, don't act like you haven't killed anything there. The spiders fear you.
That's true. Man, I killed an awesome 11 point. Go check out the video.
I was part of that. I feel like it's half my kill. I told you to do it. Carol goes,
dude, I just remember how hard I was laughing. I have never laughed so hard and had to be so silent in my life. And that deer sat there and watched the entire thing. I was crying. I was literally crying because this deer just sat there and was just like.
So we were about to get down. A deer walks in at like 40 yards. We're like, stop, do you hear that? And we see one at 40 yards. And Carol's like, is it a doe? I was like, yeah. And we're like just a few hundred yards from the truck. I'm like, shoot it, dude. We'll drag it out. He's like, you sure? Yeah. We's getting a stare off. Did it start stomping at us or not?
Yeah. Oh, dude. Yeah, dude. It started blowing and stomping. And this deer just sat there for like 2 minutes. And I just start chuckling because I'm like, I ain't going to shoot it. It's going to turn and run. So I just start laughing. and laughing. And then I'm just like, at this point, like I'm actually laughing out loud. And so Christian starts laughing. And I was just like, all right, well, now or never. Dude, you remember I had the bow in my hand? I stood up while I swung, drew, and was like 40 yards, put my pin already on 40 yards. Was like, Christian, you think he's at 40? Yeah, I think she's at 40. So stood up, swung, drew back, popped it. This arrow took 7 seconds to get there because I'm shooting FMJs on a 60-pound bow. And this deer ducks, turns, and starts running before my arrow even gets there. And Popper was like, oh, dude, yeah, busted her ass, bro. Busted her in the ass. Let's go. She's dead. Dead deer. Dead doe down, and Christian's like, I heard a crash. I did. Sweet. All right, we get down, we're looking, and I just remember him saying, hey, is it brown? I was like, yes, it is. It is brown. I walked up and was like, it's a button buck. It's a button buck. So,
it wasn't, though. It was a spike.
Well, dude, kinda. I'm talking like, dude, not even an inch. Like,
I mean, legally, it would have identified.
It was classified as a doe, but it was like one side was. I don't even think one side was peeping through. Was it? I don't know. I know.
Do you still have that skull cap?
No, I didn't. I buried it so I could make a keychain and stuff out of the horns, because they were only like an inch or two long. And then I think a possum drug it up. So.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
That was your biggest public land buck. I don't know why you would do that.
Yeah, good eating though. Yeah.
Oh, Justin was more excited than you were.
Yeah, I know. He's not my biggest public land buck anymore though.
Oh, that's true. Got
him by 107 inches.
Huge upgrade.
Yeah.
No, that was fun. That was a really fun time.
I'd do it again.
I would too. Technically, it was a doe. So we talked a good amount about that wide buck and then the Mr. Next Year. I think the one that I want to shoot the most off our lease is that Drop Tine 8. Paddles.
Yeah, dude. Paddles is like, dude, this deer has the frame of just like.
I've been using the new Exodus Rival cell camera for the last couple months, and I have found a beautiful mainframe 8-point with tons of stickers to go after this fall.
Ooh.
One thing I do appreciate about Exodus trail cameras is all of the cameras share the same data plan, so you only pay for what you need. A lot of cell cam companies charge you for HD pictures. I've seen prices of $5 for 50 HD pics. Exodus is going to give you unlimited HD pictures right to your phone, which is awesome when you're sitting there in the middle of the summer and it's 100 degrees and you just want to binge a bunch of trail cam photos.
If you're looking for a solid cell camera with great performance and a 5-year no BS warranty, go check them out. So as we all know, hunting gear is something people can make way too complicated. Arrows can be the exact same way. Instead of going down all those rabbit holes trying to sift through the endless information that's online and you're not really sure if it's right or wrong, Exodus makes it simple to get the right arrow for your exact setup.
So go online to the Exodus Arrow Builder. It takes less than a minute. You're going to enter your draw weight, your draw length, and how heavy of a point you're shooting. And it's going to be that simple. Let the guys at Exodus take care of the rest.
So if you're interested in Exodus Rival cell cameras or a new set of their MMT arrows, just go to exodusoutdoorgear.com and use code HA15 for 15% off anything on their website.
Once again, that is exodusoutdoorgear.com. Use code HA15 at checkout for 15% off. Now let's get back to the podcast.
Jake, do you remember that 7-point that I missed on public?
So are you? Yes, I remember the 7-point, but which rack? The 2020 rack where the year you missed them, or the 2021 rack where he absolutely blew up?
The one he missed him.
No, yeah, the one where he took off running.
Yeah,
that time.
Yes.
How just big. He wasn't like as wide, but dude, he was a good deer. Like he reminds me of that 8, where he's not as good as mass as that 8, but
I'm trying to find the picture. I thought when y'all sent it to me
of paddles.
Yeah, the drop time.
I'll send you a picture.
Is this him?
Oh,
whoops, wrong camera.
Yeah, that's him, but there's a better picture of him than that. I got one.
It looks like he has a whole bunch of junk down by his bases, though.
He has 5 extras. He has 2 off his bases, and then he has on that one side, it's almost like a turkey foot, and it has a drop tine.
Yeah, this was... Hell, this is this month. This was
There
like...
you are.
This is yesterday.
Yeah. He also has a double throat patch.
He's a regular too, dude. He's a regular, and oh my gosh, am I pumped.
Man, that's the only bad thing about trail cameras right now is like that. As soon as he loses his velvet, he could be gone.
He won't though.
That's
Knock
the thing
on
about
wood.
that place.
Dude, there is no, I'm not kidding. The nearest person or anything that would drive a deer away is 10 miles away.
Not until I find out exactly where it is. And
You
then...
wouldn't. That's the cool thing about this place is you wouldn't ever.
I got Christy's location.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe turn that off. That buck, he's probably a mid 130s 8, and I think with his extras, I think that could be a 140-inch buck.
And
I really
still,
do.
Dude, he's like not even close to.
So
he's still got like probably just by the pictures,
10%.
He's still got growing. Like, yeah, he's still got like a lot of deer are like they're about done. This deer, he might grow another this deer might grow another 10 inches. He might actually grow another.
All bucks
10
are
inches.
somewhat different when it comes to growing. Some have like a late spurt, and others will be done freaking 15 days ago.
Well, the good thing about this buck is we got to watch him last year because he's got very distinct characteristics, a very similar shape of the rack as he did last year. And then those eye guards, you cannot mistake those eye guards. They're like 6 inches apiece. And he was the same way last year. He was a late bloomer, and it was like in early August, he still had way rounded horns. And then by the end of August, they were starting to get pretty sharp, or the mid part of August. He still has probably another 10 days of going, and he's a late bloomer. He was the same way last year.
I like that little bot fly hole he has on his right main beam.
Other side. Yeah, it's almost, yeah, he's going to have that too. That's sick. Well, you can look at it though. Look at his 4th mass measurement where it would be past his G3. He still has good mass out there. It's like a paddle. It's like bladed almost. He is a cool buck.
And this one's consistent?
Very consistent.
Dude, every deer, knock on wood, that like we have photos of, other than that wide 8-point, that's the 8 mainframe,
Yeah.
8, the 10-point that you were saying that you really liked. Other than him, every deer that we have is like has been consistent. I was frustrated because I don't know if we're gonna do this on podcast, but our Tacticams have not been. They haven't been working. Our Exodus photos are the only things that are coming through and have been consistent. So I was sitting there and I was like frustrated because I would get on our Tacticam and be like, man, Christian, dude, nothing. Christian's like, oh, well, maybe, maybe this, maybe that. I'm like, no, dude, they're actually not sending photos. And then he got on, what was it, like 2 or 3 days ago? And you're like, Carol, you were not kidding. They are actually not sending photos. I'm like, yeah, I've been sitting here like, how are you getting all these photos? And I realized, oh shoot, these are Exodus cameras. So,
well, dude, like I was talking to Jake about this. Last year, I was giving Tacticam such good praise because like I did not have a single issue. The only issue was my memory cards weren't big enough. That was my biggest issue. But this year, we had 4 or 5 of them out at the lease, and there was like one that not even one. The one that was working, I canceled because it was getting a bunch of pictures of grass.
Yeah, we just threw that one up as shot in the dark.
Yeah.
Though.
Well, I did want to do some side-by-side testing with the Tacticams and the Exodus. And so we literally on each feeder, we put a Tacticam and we put an Exodus like really close to each other. And those two, like literally the 3 Tacticams, they all crapped out. There was some of them that hadn't sent a picture in over a month. And
yeah, dude, I was sitting
do they
there.
hold
I
them
was
on the SDs though?
They still
off.
do. Yeah.
I was getting very frustrated because I'm like, dude, we don't have consistent deer. What the heck? Like, it's at that point where it's like they should be consistent and all this, and you're like, we are having consistent deer. I'm like, what?
I was getting the pictures.
Yeah.
Seeing is believing. Those
Well, I
Exodus
still
are legit.
haven't set out any of mine, so.
Well, yeah, your cameras are doing great.
I mean, hey, they also have 100% battery, so.
So do ours. All of our Exodus have 100%.
Well, I'm getting just as many pictures though as your Tacticams.
Well, what's funny is I did put one of my Tacticams out, and we underestimated the amount of batteries that we needed, and so I put like 8 lithium and then I put 4 alkaline and cross mixed them. And that camera died 30 days later. It's dead now. Completely dead.
So I have a question though.
What's that?
So I have obviously already have the lithium batteries, but if I were to put just the regular alkaline batteries with the solar panel, that should be fine though, right?
No,
Alkaline aren't rechargeable.
Alkaline when they're done. Lithium
That's true.
lithium ion is rechargeable.
But it should run off of the solar panel regardless, though, right?
It recharges the batteries. That's what it does.
It doesn't.
Yeah. It's not like it's not like the solar is the direct power source and the batteries are the backup. It's using the batteries and it's using the solar to recharge the batteries.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't even know that.
Huh.
So if you don't dip below 100%, like it never makes a difference, right? But it's just constantly recharging them. That's what it's doing.
Well, that's good. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I just didn't know that. I always wondered it.
Yeah, I could save myself a lot of money if it was just solar panels and alkaline.
Yeah, dude, what really makes me angry is like I don't want to sit here and complain, but the Tacticams, they're expensive cameras. After the batteries and after the solar panels, you're dropping like $200 for these things, and just they don't work. And you're like, how do you not work? Now, maybe it's a lot more complicated than I could ever imagine to make stuff like this work.
3 non-engineers are like, dude, I could build one. I could build one right now.
Yeah, but it's just like, man, $200 for a trail camera, and it just doesn't work. And it's not even that it doesn't work, because typically, man, people that use these probably can be like, oh, it's out in my field, I'll go reset it tomorrow midday. Well, we're like, hey, we're
5 hours away.
5 hours away. Yeah, so it's like, well, it's not working. We have until we'll go put corn in the feeder one last time, around September 1st, somewhere around there.
You use corn, cheater.
Yeah, I did see a comment on the YouTube today or yesterday, and it said, "Hunting over feed. That's not hunting at all." And I said, I know, right? This guy's a tool.
Yeah, dude, these keyboard warriors. It's just because people are so jealous. They're like, oh, man, I need a food plot, man. I built my food plot. And it's like, no, I saved $10,000 and I just get 4 bags of corn.
And I still complain about every bag of corn I buy.
Yeah, exactly.
You have
a tractor? That's cool. I have 4 bags of corn.
Trump card.
$13 a piece. That Kiss video I'm making, it's gonna have a shooting deer over a corn feeder montage, just to prove a point. It is.
That's mean. You need to. People are gonna get so fired up about that. Corn. It's very apparent when you see people talk.
Yeah, dude, it's so funny because these people are like, you use corn as they're loading up their crossbow or their rifle, like in the back of their truck. You're like, yo. Amateurs.
I hunt over beans with a rifle, like I'm
yeah, no kidding. It's like, dude, come on, man.
I think Ohio, everybody gets so mad about the corn in Ohio because people have like 2-acre pieces and they put corn out and shoot like 200 inchers. And like all you need is 2 acres and some corn. And because in the Midwest, like it's like what we do, but imagine if the bucks were 30% bigger. That would start to piss people off. You just get a 1 acre piece and you're like, yeet.
That would make me happy.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about anything else on the lease, Carol, that you're excited about, or are these 3 big bucks enough for you?
I mean, we're going to have even more. I'm fully like, we're going to have some tricklers that come in. And the cool thing about that place is we could have that 160, 170 inch deer trickle in on us. Well,
so I already have my plan. Tell Carol Mr. Next Year is off limits. He shoots the drop tine 8, and then I go in and say, dude, I think he's 5. And then
dude, honestly, like with drop tine 8, he's a bigger frame deer. So
he is.
He's a bigger
so is the wide
deer.
So is that wide deer.
Yeah. So I'm like, I honestly, like I said, I wouldn't be even too upset if drop tine 8 just went, 170 inches. If our buddy Jake scores it, he'll be like 125. But if a normal person scores it, he'll probably go like 140, 135.
Yeah. Dude, I love a deer that buck has character.
They're not talking about me. They're talking about another Jake. Just for listeners. I can't score a deer. Silly gooses.
No, that drop tine 8. he's got just the drop time and those extra points. Like I would shoot him without any of that. With having all that stuff, and I know he's mature. I'm like, this guy checks all the boxes. He's a big deer,
dude. He's a tank. He's just a tank. Where you're just like,
dude, and he's got double throat patches. I love double throat patches. He's gonna be he's a beast. I hope one of us kills him.
What if he's 4.5?
Old as he's gonna get.
Well, Warren Holder was I listened to a whole podcast of them talking about that cementum annuli stuff, the tooth aging where they cut it. And it was really interesting. They were using video footage, and some of the bucks that they were estimating the age, they were off by like 2 years. And so it makes me realize that like if you don't have history with a buck, you really have no idea. You could put him in those ranges. Weird. Yeah. You could put him in the ranges like, oh, I think he's 3 to 5, but if you don't know of the buck previously, you really have no idea. You have no idea.
So what you're saying is just shoot and ask questions later.
Yeah, if it makes you happy.
That's the kind of moral of the story I'm getting here.
It just shows what management, because the guys, our buddies that had that lease before and people around, like when you manage, it's like, oh my God, you actually can have consistent old bucks that are big. Now, it might take you 10 years to do it, but it's just awesome. Each year at the least, because we're like, oh, yeah, we're going to have 140-inch deer. It's like, well, you don't know that. It's like, no, we do know that, because we have 125 and 130-inch deer that are 3.5 right now, and we have 6.
Well, I don't think that applies to everywhere, though, because like you guys are in a primo spot with the primo lease, like crazy age structure. Like if you go to a...
But why is it like that, though? It's because
land's more segmented.
Like, well, I wouldn't say it's the land is more It is. People
that's 100%. I think
it is, but also it's because not everybody shoots. If it has a rack, not everybody shoots. Like up in Northeast Oklahoma, it's got food, it's got endless food, and it gets a lot of water.
It's better habitat. It really
is. So, it can get like that, but it won't ever get like that because everybody owns 40 acres. But it can.
Yeah, exactly.
It can be like that.
It has a higher ceiling potential for the antler growth. But the thing is like since it's more segmented, you're not going to be able to get that higher age structure. I mean, I'm not going to name drop it, but y'all know, there's a person that is a mile from where I hunt, and he shot 3 bucks off of his 25-acre property.
Mm-hmm.
That's not quality deer management.
It was more than that. I think it was 4 or 5.
It was 4. It was 4 actually. Okay. 100%. It was 4 bucks.
Let's get it right.
And I had 3 of.
But just to clarify, he didn't. But his family. He didn't personally.
Right.
But there was 4 bucks taken off his property, but he didn't shoot. So
yes.
Were they good bucks? Clear. Absolutely, 100%. But I had 3 of those on camera, and I only had 5 good bucks on camera last year, and 3 of them's for sure dead. So that's the difference.
That is the issue,
and that's just from one. That's just from one person I know about, one family I know about.
Yeah, but you also have to think about it like this: is why I say it can is, let's say the ranch that I'm not going to name drop the ranch, but Christian, me, you, Jared, Griffith used to go hunt. Big deer everywhere. Why?
Like 60s type deer.
Yeah. J-Rod would say, no, I've seen 170-inch deer, and they're like some really good deer, and that's just because the food's there, the water's there, everything's there, just the people aren't. So
what do you think y'all's lease is lacking in a sense? Because you all have everything, it seems like, except a few things. So what do you think that is, Carol? Why isn't that ceiling higher like it is in Northeast?
I wouldn't say the ceiling has a lot to do with the ceiling. It's just that you can have that age structure and that size. I wasn't necessarily saying, oh, Northeast is going to have bigger deer, and if I did, then I must have misspoke. But now I think, other than the river is the only reason that there is any wildlife there, because there is no water. The river is their saving grace. The food, they have beans, and we on our corn too, so we get to feed them a little bit. But I wouldn't say it's the ceiling. I'm just saying that Northeast has everything that Southwest, Western Oklahoma does and more, but Northeast just has more people. It can. Long story short, Northeast can have what Southwest has as far as deer quality and age structure. It's just the people around you have to follow that game plan. A perfect example is the ranch that Christian, Jared, and I used to duck hunt. We used to see big deer there all the time. Why? Because it's how many acres? Over 10,000 acres, isn't it, Christy?
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
Over
very limited
10,000
people that hunt.
over 10,000 acres. The deer are there. The only thing is there's not the hunters.
I do believe that the ceiling is higher in Northeast Oklahoma. I think the age structure is way better in Southwest, obviously, because it's not as segmented.
Right.
Deer have a chance. But I think it has to do with the browse quality. Like the drought in Southwest Oklahoma has been so bad for so many years that it's not just the water that they're intaking, like the quality of the browse that they're eating is not as good. Like if you took the age structure of Southwest and implanted it into Northeast, you'd be seeing 170-inch deer.
Well,
get
there's
killed.
that one ranch that we see at our taxidermist all the time, and
Yep.
you can walk in and be like, okay, I know exactly where that deer came from.
Yeah. That's the same ranch that we're talking about.
Mhm.
But yeah, it just shows that it can. It's just how much land do you have to own, and how good of neighbors do you have to have, and how long.
Well, how big's that ranch? And I'll tell you.
Yeah. No,
Yeah, but it does show you when you get the places where you can manage the age structure and it has that quality of browse, that's when you get those deer.
I think it's the perfect example of like a control, like to an experiment of like, well, let's look at all the 40 acres around. Your average age of deer is probably 1.5 to 2.5. Let's look at this ranch. The average age is probably 4.5, 5.5, and probably a lot of deer don't even get seen there or see people.
Well, what's the p-value?
What's the square root? Yeah,
I still don't know, Carol. Don't worry.
I'm excited for the lease too, Carol. I'm gonna put the wide 10, the drop 10-8, and then Mr. Next Year all off the hit list until I can hunt. And then we'll call it good.
We're both going down on the first, man. We can either pick depending on when, depending on when we're going, but we're going down on the first if the wind's right, and we can either sit together or we have 2 stand locations. We just got to set them on the both sides.
Carol, you'll be like, is he in frame? And you'll just hear. I'm like, yeah, he is in frame. Press record.
So how are you all going to do that? Are you just going to draw sticks, or especially if y'all go down on the same weekend?
No.
So we talked about that. It is if we are in the same stand on the same day, I will have first dibs this year. But if we're in different stands, or if I can't make it, like let's say something comes up on the first opening morning and I'm not there, it's like, dude, shoot whatever. It's just only if we were there and in the same stand, I will have first shot. That is the only thing. But we're also thinking, because we had a south stand that we moved to the north side of our lease, and I don't know if you covered this yet, but we didn't get anything. It's crazy. It's 250 yards.
Not very far.
It's like 250 yards. No pictures, no deer, anything there last year. We were like, what the heck? Well, our deer are coming from the northwest.
Big bedding area.
Yeah, north and west, and sometimes the northeast. Actually, probably most of the time in northeast. But these deer didn't have to go that far into our property, is what I came to. Is why would they come over here? They don't have to. They don't have to come over here. So we took that south stand and moved it 400-500 yards north, and we are getting so many more pictures. We made the best decision we've ever made of moving that stand. We can hunt there with a north wind. We can hunt there with a north wind. We can hunt there with an east wind. So if we put that other stand up there, or put that other blind stand, whatever it may be, to the west, then we can hunt it pretty much with the same winds, preferably an east wind. But it's possible to hunt both stands. It's just the person, on the big buck down. I don't know if with the north wind, if you're going to be affected by that, or if I'll be affected, whoever's sitting there. But it might be far enough away that it's just like it doesn't even matter. But who knows?
Yeah.
All I'm getting out of this is you guys aren't going to hunt public with me.
No, not true.
Oh, we are.
Carol plans on being done on private on October 1st.
Dude, that's I'm hoping. Like I'm really really hoping, man. I'll say this because I don't want to ramble on. Hunting public was so much more enjoyable when you have a buck down. Like last year when I went in, I had a 117-inch deer walk by, and I was like, no, I've already got one bigger than him this year. Not worried about it. You know. That if I didn't get a deer yet, I probably would have flung an arrow at him.
For you, that might give you motivation, but for me, it'd be like, I'm tired this morning. Let me know what y'all see.
So
What do you mean?
Yeah.
Carol did do that 3 times.
Yeah. I was fed up. I was ready. We made a big mistake by not going to Kansas first. We made a big mistake. We were burnt out. We were ready to go home. We were tired of hunting and the spot that we should have spent most of our time and effort in.
Speak for yourself, dude. I tagged out.
That's true. I did too.
That's true.
I think I had some Wagyu beef in my tag suit because that one was expensive last year.
That's right. Let's cover this Texas thing and then get off here.
Yep.
So we had several requests, I think 4 or 5 just on Facebook Messenger. Might have even had more on Instagram to talk about a Texas bill that recently came out. It's called SB 1236. Apparently it was kind of stealth launched and originally was only supposed to be in 7 or 8 counties. And as of September 1st, 2023, you're no longer able to hunt any navigable waterway in their beds/basins with a rifle, bow, or shotgun. So
I got a question.
Yep, go ahead.
What the hell's a stealth launch? Like, is that the government just trying to be sneaky? Like, oh, hey, we're going to slide
exactly.
this
Like,
table.
Yeah, kind of used sleight of hand. They were acting like it was only just a few counties at first, and then they kind of slipped in like, oh, it's statewide, like governing bodies do. Like you saw the trail cam ban in Kansas.
Yeah.
They're like, we decided today, it's over. Yeah, so they in the actual bill, it says use of certain weapons in or on bed of bank of navigable river streams. So what I'm getting from that is people that use water and rivers or streams to navigate on public lands. That sounds like a big problem. They got effed. Lone Star Outdoors Show said Texas hunters just got effed right in the arse behind closed doors by our elected officials. I can't say that I'm surprised by that because it seems to be happening more and more.
How much land, like percentage wise, is actually public land in Texas though?
Oh gosh, it's like 1%.
Yeah, so I mean, you guys are already kind of screwed. So what's this really change?
Just
unless, yeah, but unless like that's which could be the case if some of the land is or the public land is a little bit landlocked or something. Maybe there's some.
I'm sure there is. I'm sure there is. What almost all public land is based around water, whether there's river systems, creeks. So when you say that you can't, hunt in or navigate with weapons and bows and stuff, that poses a big problem. Even though Texas is only 1% public land, it's a state 3 times the size of Oklahoma.
What was the reasoning behind that? Did it say?
No, they didn't. There wasn't. What do you mean? Just like Kansas, we felt like it.
Yeah. So that's my biggest question is like, why? Why are you're why? Like there's people that like to hunt. I mean, I got friends, that we went to Oklahoma State with. I'm not going to say his name on here, but he hunts public land and he does the kayak route. And I don't understand why. Why would you
limiting opportunity for other people? I don't really know why that's cool, but if you guys want someone to blame, they're saying that retired game warden Pete Flores, who is now a Texas senator, is largely responsible for pushing this through.
Makes
so
sense.
if you want somebody to get mad at, to contact, it was not sponsored by the Texas Parks and Wildlife. So that senator seems to be the
Okay, so he just kind of like drew this up and then pushed it on.
He was an old game warden, you said?
Yep. Retired game warden.
Dang well he had a buddy or something that was tired of dealing with people around waterways or something, and they're like, let's just get this headache over. Don't worry, I got you, buddy. Here you go. Here's a tampon with it. It's just like, dude, shut up.
He owed a favor.
He's like, man, Pete, I had this guy come under me with a kayak, and I'm about sick of it. I need you to ban him. It probably literally is something to that extent.
No, like there's a headache, and just like Carol said, like he was paying back a favor of some sort, 100%.
Probably, yeah. And this guy said, in a time where hunter opportunity is the biggest limiting factor for hunter recruitment, to boot, everybody's pretty livid about it. This post says, I've never encouraged any of you not to follow game laws, but this is the most disgusting thing I've seen in Texas in 15 years of covering the outdoors here. Yeah, these things continue to happen. What is the solution? I don't know what the solution is besides being vocal, loud, and absolutely livid, because they're not, obviously on the front end, they're not going to give you any opportunity to oppose it, just like they did in Kansas.
It's almost like they're seeing what they can get away with right now, in all honesty, because
testing the waters.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's just what they do, even at the highest level of lawmaking and regulations and such, is they try to slide stuff that no one really gives a dang about, and then all of a sudden it's just like, okay, let's try to push this, or let's try to hide this major thing, let's try to push that in the shadows, along with let's say the waterway thing. I wouldn't be surprised if the next bill that came out regarding waterways or something had a little bit extra, like some sort of extra law or something that's trying to get snuck by with it.
Yeah, it's something to be aware of, because it's coming for you no matter what state you live in, whether you're in the South or the the Midwest. I mean, there's always people lobbying, whether it's I was listening to Don talk about like lobbying of like crossbow companies lobbying to get them legalized in some states so they could sell them. And I'm like, you really don't think about that sort of stuff. And I'm not like anti-crossbow or anything, but you see people can change laws pretty quickly for what it seems to be like no apparent reason. So
Money.
Something to be on the lookout. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely for money or influence, or they just something happened to them or they wanted to change. That's what it is. But it's something to be mindful of.
I just think it's funny because also like these states are like, well, we're losing hunters. Less and less people are hunting, and we don't know why. It's like, yeah, because you guys are doing dumb shit all the time. Like,
so
I can tell you why.
Who's Steve Rinella's brother?
Matt Rinella.
He's like the not an activist.
He's like an anti media guy. He hates hunting media.
Yeah. Have you listened to that podcast from the Hunter guys?
I listened to probably an hour of it so far, and he's very anti-hunter recruitment.
I haven't listened to it yet, but I heard them talking about the one when they had Chris B on, and I was kind of thinking about that, and it got me thinking after they just kind of briefly mentioned how he thinks that the media is like shouldn't be recruiting people, because if recruitment rates go up, it's just like what land do we have for people to actually hunt? Like, more of he's thinking in a scarcity mindset, which you have to see from both sides. So, which, I don't really mind that viewpoint, but it does make you question though. It's just like, is it doing damage, or is it actually helping?
Which part? Recruiting?
Yeah.
I don't know. If you're bringing more people into a place that doesn't have the ability to support them, it's definitely not helping. I think it's pushing. I think every mouth that you bring in pushes another one out. If it's a bad experience, but at the same time, you can't manage somebody's experience. Like the government can't do it. The state agencies can't do it. Like, if somebody doesn't know what they're doing and they have a bad hunt, or it's because people keep walking up on them and stuff, it's kind of something you have to persevere in on public land. Like there's some years are worse than others. Some years you don't get walked up on at all. Some years you get walked up on every freaking day, it seems like. And it's like, how do you manage that? I mean, but I don't know on the hunter recruitment side. I haven't put a lot of thought into how I feel about that. If they were acquiring new public land at the same rate that people are growing, I'd be like, let's do it, because the more land, more opportunity. There's always going to be places where you can get away from people, and there's always going to be pockets. So I would be all for it, but it seems like if they're getting more people and they're just at the expense of other folks that are hunting. That just doesn't seem like a good long-term solution. All right, we're going to wrap up the episode right there. Be on the lookout for the bow fishing video. Be on the lookout for the bow fishing video on the HA YouTube channel. And we'll catch you guys in the next one.
Jesus loves you.
Thank you guys so much for checking out the Hunter's Advantage podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure to leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcast, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to the podcast. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you in the next episode.